Neil Parish joins us, former Conservative MP in Tiverton and Honiton, whose resignation from politics prompted the by-election. Thank you very much indeed for coming on the programme, Mr Parish. I wonder whether you feel, having seen the result, that you should have toughed it out.
Well, there's a part of me that says that, but I was right. You know, I was amoral what I did. I want to hasten to add it wasn't illegal. It was just the wrong place to be doing it. And talking to my wife, we decided the best thing to go. But I also want to say to my colleagues that I didn't spend 12 years looking over people's shoulders to see what they may or may not been looking on their mobile phones. So I'd just like to put that on record. But as far as this by-election is concerned, and I've got a lot of time for the Prime Minister, but he is living in a different world. And of course, he does love throwing the gauntlet down to the opposition, and in many ways, people find that quite entertaining and perhaps the right thing to do. But really, don't throw the gauntlet down to your own party, especially when you're away for a week. Much as I'm fond of him, I think he is playing a very dangerous game now, really is. And you see, he has to face up to the reality that the by-election. Yes, I caused the by-election, but I didn't lose the by-election. If I'd gone, I did, and I went under disgrace. I get all that, but it's a safe seat. It would have been a reduced majority under normal times, and we would have returned Helen Hereford quite comfortably. But the trouble was, naturally, it was a referendum on the Prime Minister, and he must take some responsibility. And then look to the way, you know, he talks about the way he's going to rebuild the government and do more on the cost of living. Because I mean, people are terribly worried about the cost of living and energy and diesel and all those things. I can understand that, but he's just not really facing up to the reality that he must take some responsibility. And I think, you know, when don't forget, a lot of the party members and the members of Parliament are voting against him because he won't face reality. I think this morning's, you know, dare I say it, outburst was a very Boris-like, but I'm not sure it's done him a lot of good.
Just before I come on to that bit, it's something interesting that you said about what happened to you at the end with people looking over your shoulder at your phone. Do you think you were done in by some of your colleagues?
I think probably I was. Now, I was wrong to be watching it. It was very amoral. It wasn't illegal. It was amoral, and I shouldn't have been doing it. I was right in the corner of the House of Commons as you go into the lobby to vote. So this idea, I think people have got, that I was right in the middle of the House of Commons flaunting it, is absolutely wrong. I wasn't proud of what I was doing, and it was very wrong I was doing it. But I didn't spend any time in the last 12 years, shall I say, splitting on fellow members. I asked to be able to apologise if I'd caused offence. I was not given that opportunity by the Chief Whip, and I was thrown to the press wolves. So, you know,
had you done it before?
Sorry?
Had you ever done it before?
No. But I've done it now, and I admitted it, and I did it twice, and I admitted it, and that's why I've gone. And I've paid a high price, but I accept that, and I need to move on. But like I said, I must say I did want the opportunity this morning just to put on the record. And while we're actually talking about it, I did refer myself too late to the Standards Authority, and she came back to me and said, because the mobile phone was paid by myself, you see, because in the whole 12 years, and you can look back my records, I never claimed for my mobile phone, even though a lot of it was parliamentary business. Because it was mixed, I didn't claim. And so therefore, as far as she was concerned, if I was privately watching it, it wasn't paid for by taxpayers' money. It was not for her to investigate. So it's quite interesting you asked me that question. But don't forget, once your wife says, you know, enough's enough, you go, don't you? She's been very good to me. She's supported me all through my political career. You don't hang around, and I didn't. And then the party faced a by-election, which I think they thought they could hold quite easily. I was I held ministers to account as chairman of the EFRA committee. I took no prisoners. I was a very independent man all of my life and in Parliament. And I suspect one or two weren't that sorry to see me go.
Were you ever contacted by Number 10, by the Prime Minister? Did they ever speak to you about what had happened or find a way through it?
They spoke to me. they spoke to me after the event. And so, and the only one that I will give great credit to is Steve Double, my personal whip. As for the chief whip, that's another matter, because I think he should have handled it in a much better way. I think he got frit. I got frit. I resigned. I don't suspect he expected me to resign. But you see, when you get...
Why did you get frit? Having described it as amoral and the right thing to do, where does frit come into it?
Have you had 3 days of the paparazzi outside of your house shouting abuse at you?
Thank God, no.
It's enough to frighten anybody, and I don't frighten easily. So, yes, I got frit, but also you have got to take your family advice. And my wife has been hugely supportive, so I was not... Mm-hmm. And you're worried to death. I've had a couple of death threats, and you've got all these cameras outside your house. I mean, I had David Amos, I had an office 3 doors down from him, and I was not going to put my wife through this. I spent the whole 3 days trying to make sure they didn't have the house in full view of the cameras. I think I largely managed to succeed in that. So it's not easy. And when you go to the chief whip and ask for help, you expect it. You're thrown over the side of a ship, and then you're left to drown. And that's how it works. And fine, but don't go on. I saw Mark Spencer on the podcast, Telegraph podcast, saying how caring they all were. Well, I need to put that on record. They're not. Mark actually was much better than the present chief whip, Chris Seaton-Harris. But this idea that they're all there caring for us is nonsense. The police very kindly. Rightly took away, because I'm a farmer, you see, I've got shotguns, so they took those away from me, and the
police took away your shotguns.
Yeah, because when you've blown up your parliamentary career for 12 years, you are not feeling in the best place. And they took them away for my own safety, not that I was going to shoot anybody else in case I shot myself. I did say to them in a moment of black humour, I am a very bad shot, I would probably miss, but they didn't naturally see the joke at the time, nor was it very funny. So, like I said, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be saying all this, but it's probably a chance for me to put on the record exactly my side of it. So I think we ought to get back really to the political situation.
Well, no, listen, Neil, I think I can tell from the sound of your voice that it is still, and obviously the things that you're saying, that it is still a source of immense pain for you, what has happened. I wonder, when you talk about someone needing to take responsibility, you took responsibility for what you did and you resigned. And in that regard, I wonder whether you think you have shown more responsibility for your actions than the Prime Minister.
I think that's what certainly, I don't blame the Liberal Democrats for doing it, but naturally that's what they used in the by-election, you see, because funnily enough, and many press that went to the constituency, people found that thought I was stupid and wrong in what I'd done, but because I'd resigned, they actually liked me. I was a good constituency MP, and so therefore the Liberal Democrats, you see, used that to their advantage by saying, well, of course, Neil Parish was a very good MP. Richard Ford, especially with the farmers, said I'd like to sort of follow him in his footsteps, and then went on to say, more or less, and of course he did the honourable thing. I think it put more pressure back onto the Prime Minister, and as I said at the start of the meeting, I just don't think, and I actually like Boris. I'm not Boris I fell out with, but the issue is you can't, as Prime Minister, when the vote, at the end of the day was a referendum of the Prime Minister, and so like I said, it's a case now of making, he does have to. What he likes to do, you see, is sort of, it happened, and so let's put a line on it. And I accept him wanting to do that. But the trouble is, it keeps coming back. His ethics advisors go. I mean, it was a terrible time during the by-election because you had the Sue Gray report, you had the whole lot going on, and then you had the ethics advisor going and various other people. And so, the timing was horrendous. But he can't keep walking away, and then he's over doing a good job on Ukraine. He was job as far as trying to sort the Russians out, all sorts of big calls he does well, but he can't divorce himself from the other things. And I think what he thinks he does is, that anybody comes at me, I'll throw down the gauntlet and say, you get me. But the trouble is, if he says that to his, you could do that to the opposition, but you can't do that to your own party when they're saying he's not listening. And what does he do? He throws down another gauntlet.
Very good to speak to you. Really grateful for your time. Neil Parish, you were the Conservative MP in Tiverton and Honiton, whose resignation, of course, prompted the by-elections that saw the Liberal Democrats votes swing around 30 points to absolutely destroy the majority that Neil Parish had built up.